Before the story begins, please watch this video until the end. The last minutes matter more than anything I can say at the start. Chapter 1. The paper with no words. I was working demolition on the North End, the part of the city with more scaffolding than sky. Steel sang, concrete coughed dust, and every billboard laughed with the same teeth. Perfect, white, expensive. It was the kind of day so bright you couldn't stop squinting, like the sun wanted to pry your eyes open and pour itself in. I had $3 to my name, a bruised knuckle, and an old radio that only picked up sermons and screaming. At lunch, a wind curled down the alley and pressed a flyer against my boot. It looked like any other cheap advertisement, glossy, too cheerful, a stock photo of a woman in a beige sweater smiling at a beige horizon. But when I picked it up, there were no words on it, just blank space around her and those teeth. I turned it over, held it up, squinted. It was like the sentences were hiding behind the glare. I asked Royce, the only guy on the crew who'd sometimes split a sandwich, if he saw any text. He looked at it, nodded. Says new condos. Free tour. Dream big, he said. There's nothing there, I told him. He laughed like I was trying to be clever. You need your eyes checked, brother. Maybe I did. The radio in my pocket hiccuped then. 2 seconds of smooth jazz, then a voice like a cold hand. Sleep deeper. Everything will be okay. The voice was gone as quickly as it came. After the shift, my boots took me to the soup kitchen near Harlan Street. The line was as long as the winter felt. Inside, a man at the end table stacked paper plates in precise towers. His knuckles were purple, like he'd been punching the truth. He nodded when I came by. Food brings you in, he said, but something else keeps you. What's that? I asked. Noise, he said. Noise you can't hear yet. He slipped me another blank flyer. You can't read it, he murmured. Not the way you're looking now. Chapter 2. The Room That Hummed. The soup kitchen was attached to a church with nailed-shut windows and a cross that looked ashamed of itself. I went back the next night because one warm meal can feel like a promise. The line shuffled forward, and the same man with purple knuckles didn't hand me a tray. He touched my elbow and steered me down a narrow hall, past a door where the air got thick like soup, into a storage room where no cans were stacked. There was a hum in there. I felt it in my teeth before I heard it. 4 people were at a folding table, side by side like mourners, except they were soldering something into frames. Not glasses. Not exactly. The frames were thick and plain, fitted for a pane of dark glass that shimmered oily when it caught the light. The woman doing the soldering had burn scars lacing her wrists like ivy. You're going to want to run when you see, she said without looking up. Everybody does. I'm not much of a runner, I said. A joke, but my voice cracked. The man with purple knuckles cracked open a showbox full of finished frames. Every piece of glass looked bruised from within. He picked one up, wiped it with his sleeve, then offered it to me like a communion. What is it? I asked. It's a way to hear the quiet parts, he said. Before I could reach, a siren yawned awake outside. Not an ambulance. The kind of siren that makes the ground flinch. The hum inside the room went screaming in my head. The burners snapped off. Somebody killed the light. We went blind as a thought. Then the back wall lifted, a sheet of plywood on hinges, and there was the alley, slick and empty. Take one. Don't throw up, the woman said, pressing the frame into my palm. We ran out like rats from a collapsing ceiling. The church shook. I heard boots. A man in a black helmet shouted a sequence of numbers, and my body understood it was a command. Knees softened. Hands wanted to rise. The woman's burned wrist grabbed me and yanked me forward. Don't listen, she hissed. If you listen, you'll love them. We slipped between dumpsters and breath and found ourselves crouched behind an advertising truck. The side of it was a smiling baby holding a bottle big enough to drown in. My radio clicked alive in my pocket. Sleep deeper, the voice cooed as the sirens withdrew like the ocean before it returns for you. Chapter 3. The Glass That Didn't Blink. I made it to my room in the boarding house just as my stomach remembered it was allowed to rebel. Everything I'd eaten came back up in a sorry prayer. I lay there with the frame on my chest like a dead bird. The radio on the dresser hissed and sighed and finally went quiet. When the quiet has a shape to it, you start to understand the loud, the TV on the other side of the wall, the neighbors settling, traffic lifting and dropping like a giant lung. The glass didn't look like much. Smudged. A hairline crack at the edge like a fault line waiting. I lifted it. The room through it looked darker. Then my eye adjusted, and I realized it wasn't the room that changed. In the glass, my hand had a faint grid crawling across it, like a mosquito net woven into skin. I lowered the glass. My hand was only a hand again. I stood and held the pane to the window. Outside, the billboard across the street was selling some kind of drink. Blue water, blue sky, a model laughing with her mouth open like a portal. Through the glass, the colors drained. The model's hair went the color of old money. The water went back to being tap. And the words on the billboard lay down and let me read them. Obey. Sleep. Eat less. Buy more. Stay busy. Trust the smile. I lasted maybe 4 seconds before I did exactly what the woman had warned me against. I threw up again, dry this time, so it felt like my chest was trying to fold inside out. I held the glass toward the window and scanned the sidewalk. A man in a suit passed. Without the glass, he was tan, clean, expensive. Through the glass, his face came apart. Features sagged to reveal a pitted mask of bone and chrome, teeth like keyboard keys, eyes black as mold. A mesh of symbols crawled across his cheeks and forehead, fading and appearing like tides. He stopped, looked right at my window like he heard me thinking. In the glass, his mouth stretched into something that wasn't a human smile. I yanked the pane back, then dared another look without it. He was a man again, checking his watch, frowning at a non-problem. I had to show Royce. He was stubborn, but not blind. I tucked the glass under my jacket and took the back stairs 2 at a time. He was at the laundry in the basement, feeding a machine his last quarters, whistling a song like chewing gum. I told him nothing, just lifted the pane up like a dare. Look, I said. He smirked. At what? At what you're actually looking at, I said. He pushed it away. You're acting weird. Just put your face in it, I said. I'll stop if you tell me it's nothing. He sniffed, then humoured me. When he peered through the glass, the smirk slid off like rain. His throat moved once, twice. He held the pane left and right, exposing and unexposing the machines, the posters, me. The poster above the dryers, make every day count, was through the pane a field of commands. Keep your head down, tell no one, consume and repeat, smile when looked at. He looked at me. His eyes were wet. What is this? The quiet parts, I said. We are going to hear all of it if we keep this up. We didn't hear the elevator open. The man who stepped out wore a maintenance uniform that somehow fit like a uniform and a skin at once. Without the glass, he was 40, balding, bored. Through the glass, his skull was laced with sigils that pulsed like a heartbeat. Evening, he said. Royce lowered the glass. I tucked it inside my jacket, heart punching my ribs. Evening, I repeated. The man smiled, but not with his eyes. New tenants should meet the building manager, he said. His voice tripped on a harsh consonant, like he was tagging the air with something only certain ears could hear. Maybe tomorrow, I said. He nodded, moved on. The radio in my pocket ticked to life. Everything is okay. Sleep deeper. Royce whispered, what do we do? We get loud, I said. My mouth was dry as brick. Chapter 4, The Tower That Spoke. We met the burned-wrist woman again in the emptiness behind the church. The plywood door had been kicked in. The folding table was on its side, solder irons crooked like broken fingers. She was alone. Her eyes were the color of thunder. They got most of us, she said, but not the broadcast. Where? I asked. She tilted her chin toward downtown. The art museum roof. That sculpture that looks like an eagle learning to hate itself. Beneath it. Of course. We all gave money to the museum because it promised we could feel something. The building's crown was a mosaic of metal feathers you could see from anywhere. How do we shut it off? Royce asked. You don't shut it off, she said. She held up a pane like mine, only spiderwebbed with cracks. You show it back to itself. The plan was stupid. It was also the only one. We stole 2 maintenance uniforms. Mine smelled like cigarettes, his like bleach. We carried toolboxes with nothing but nerves inside. I kept the glass in a padded pocket, over my heart. The radio, traitor that it was, sputtered warnings, random voices, a busy signal that felt like drowning, a child laughing in a way children only laugh in your memory. We passed 2 uniforms in the lobby. Their badges didn't reflect enough light. I kept my chin down and my mouth humming a song so old I couldn't possibly remember it was a lullaby. We made the service elevator. It climbed like a tale you hope ends before it has to begin. The roof was colder than the city. Wind grabbed our collars and shook us like dogs. The sculpture was bigger up close, each feather a blade. Beneath it, a hatch no one would notice unless they were looking for secrets. "We are really doing this," Royce said. He was shaking, but it isn't courage without tremor. Inside, the chamber was a heart. It pulsed. Not with blood. This was a rhythm built from the city's own electricity. A dish sat in the center, tilted toward the sky, coughing up a signal the ear couldn't trust. Banks of boxes blinked light like eyelids. "If we point the pane at it," I said. "It won't like seeing itself," the woman told us. She'd appeared at the hatch without breath, as if the wind set her there. None of them do. We wedged the glass in front of the dish, balanced by the hope that makes fools of people. The hum changed pitch. I felt it climb my spine like a desperate hand. Royce held the pane steady. I threw a switch that looked important. Somewhere below us, alarms discovered their voice. The dish protested, then groaned, then sang. The pane darkened, almost to black, then flared. It reflected a smear of the dish's own exhalation back into its throat. I thought nothing happened. Then the city coughed. Drivers stopped in the middle of lanes. People on sidewalks paused mid-step. The man with the watch outside my window turned, frowned, and then came undone. Not physically. He still stood there, a man in a suit, but every person who glanced at him flinched as if a truth had licked them. The billboards stuttered and lost their lies. TVs in living rooms burst into snow. For 3 seconds, you could read the quiet in the air. Then the city adapted. The signal dimmed, shifted. The dish below us hissed. The pane spidered a new crack. The woman with the burns let out a little sound, the kind that might be a laugh or a cry and is both. "It's not enough," she said. "It was something," I said. And then the hatch above us opened and 2 men in uniforms climbed down, their faces smooth as thought, their eyes already knowing who we were. Chapter 5. The Voices That Wore Faces. I've been hit many times. There's a first punch that teaches you the second always comes. One of the uniforms hit Royce with that first punch. It wasn't human. It was something measured in a lab and wrapped in meat. The other reached for me, and my hand found a wrench I hadn't realized I packed. I swung and missed, metal ringing against metal. The woman moved like someone who had practiced falling. She made it look like flying. She dropped low, kicked at a knee, and something inside the man snapped like an old branch. The radio in my pocket woke and screamed. "Sleep deeper," it ordered. Then, in a whisper under it, "Wake, if you can." My head wanted to cradle itself. I wanted to lie down on the warm, humming floor and be told what to do. But the pain hummed louder, and the dish fought to sing its bad song, and beyond the walls a city did not know whether to scream or stay polite. You don't win fights like this. You survive them. We made them work for it. We knocked over a tower of blinking boxes. We unplugged what we could reach. The dish coughed a mist of metal. The pain went from black to mirror, and for a heartbeat, I saw my own face in it, then another face behind mine that wore me like etiquette was a lie. The uniform I'd kicked it reached again. He said a phrase between his teeth like a password. My knees tried to obey, my breath tried to slow. The woman bit her own lip until it bled and smeared the blood in a circle on the pane. "Why?" Royce gasped. "It confuses them," she said. "They never learned to want anything with a taste." We wouldn't have made it if the city hadn't decided it was tired of lying for a minute. The dish sputtered. The lights flickered. Both uniforms glanced toward the hatch and frowned in unison, a gesture that looked like a glitch. I jammed the wrench into a gap at the base of the dish and pried. Royce pushed the pane with all the anger he had never used on the people who deserved it. The dish screamed. We ran. Up the ladder, over the roof, into the open. I don't remember the elevator. I remember the lobby because it was full of people watching TVs that said nothing. I remember the front door because it felt like crossing a river. On the sidewalk, a woman was staring at a window display with eyes wide, like she could finally see the price tags ringing in her ears. A man laughed at a joke he hadn't heard yet. For a moment, their faces were their faces. Then the signal found a new route, and their smiles settled back into the place where smiles live when they're tired and don't know it. Royce gripped my shoulder. "This won't stop," he said. "Neither will we," I told him. I didn't know if that was true. I just knew my teeth ached from whatever song I was hearing, and my hands stank of metal, and the quiet parts were starting to talk to me in public places. Chapter 6. The Message That Keeps Playing. I'm recording this now because there's a limit to how long a person can carry a story before it starts to rot. I don't have the pain anymore. They took it. Or I lost it. Or it cut itself out of my jacket like a splinter and found someone braver. Doesn't matter. The quiet doesn't need a window now. It knows my name. The woman with the burns vanished after the museum. I saw her once, reflected in the window of a bus as it pulled away. She didn't get on. Maybe she doesn't need vehicles or roads anymore. Maybe the hum is a map the rest of us can't read. Royce went back to work because dollars are still part of the same scripture no matter who's reading the verses. He won't say, but I know he keeps a shard of the pain in his wallet, a black stamp against the morning. He looks through it over his coffee and sees who's human enough to trust with a second hello. If he looks too long, he trembles. It's a bad diet, the truth. Not enough calories to live on. The broadcast moved. It always moves. The museum's dish was only a tooth in a smile of antennas. They hide the song in fountain burbles, in train announcements, in the pause before a door opens and you feel like you should be grateful. The billboards never say anything anymore. Not to me. They hum. The words slide off if I stare too long. But I can read people, and most of them are still carrying cargo they don't know they carry. What I'm trying to say is that I'm scared in a way fear wasn't designed to explain. When I close my eyes, I dream of a table and a city and a dish and a mirror and a mouth that isn't allowed to close. When I open them, I see a man in a suit whose face, that mask of chrome and bone, is vibrating, as if it's tired of holding itself still as a favor to the rest of us. He looks at me across the street and lifts his hand. I don't wave back. My tooth broke yesterday on a piece of bread that was not that hard. Inside the tooth was a dot of something that wasn't decay. It clicked against the sink like a seed. Maybe it's just dentistry's way of keeping a secret. Maybe it's a different kind of broadcast, a smaller one, a personal note from the part of the city that doesn't like how I look at it now. I ground the dot under my heel and went out into the night. I didn't bring the radio. It plays when it wants. I walk the blocks like they were chapters in a book I had already read. I passed the place where the church had stood. It's a parking lot now, more polite, easier to pave than to forgive. A kid was there, balancing on a curb, arms out, eyes closed, mouth counting. She was wearing a plastic crown. I wanted to tell her never to listen to the voice that calls itself okay. But she opened her eyes and looked at me like she already knew something I didn't. If you watch this to the end, you'll feel it. Maybe it will be the hum, maybe a flicker on your screen, maybe an ache in a tooth you thought you fixed years ago. That will be the quiet part leaning in. It will ask you to let it in. Don't. Make it speak so you can decide if you're the one who wants to listen. There was a time when I thought this could end with a big switch, a hero moment, a wire cut and a city lifts its head out of the water. I'm not that generous with my fantasies anymore. It ends, maybe, with a million small refusals. With every time you see a smiling ad and ask who pays for your grin. With every time a voice tells you to sleep deeper and you get up and walk instead. The man in the suit is on the stoop now. Or someone wearing him. He stands in the glow of the lobby's aquarium. Fish at his back like tiny flags. His hands are empty. He wants me to say a phrase. He wants me to lower my head and go downstairs and let a building manager be a building manager. I'm not going. I'm telling you this instead. If you made it here, to this last part, if you watched until the end, then you have already done something that makes the hum nervous. It doesn't like endings. It prefers loops. I'm going to turn off the light. I'm going to press my ear to the wall and hear the city tell the story it can't help telling. And when the voice in the radio finally stops saying everything is okay, I'll know it's because I made it say something else. I'll know it's because you heard it with me. You can't unknow a face once you've seen it. You can't unknow a command once you've read it. You can refuse it, and then you can refuse the next one, and the next, even if your knees want their instructions. I used to think I was alone because I had nothing to sell. Now I think I'm alone because I can read the sale. That's fine. Alone is quieter. In quiet, I can hear you arriving. Don't sleep deeper. Stay with me. Look with me. We are not a market. We are not their mouths. And as long as one of us keeps the window open, The dish will see itself and flinch. That's all for tonight. He's knocking now. He'll say he's the manager. He'll say everything is okay. He'll offer to fix the leak I don't have, the problem I didn't report, the fear I never confessed. I'll let him talk until his voice starts telling on itself. You know what to do next. If you reach the end, subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, give a like to the video, comment your thoughts, and share this with someone who needs to hear the quiet parts.